We are back again. The small coffee break is over, and I would like to welcome Matthew Rutledge and Edson José Eufrásio from the United States. Matthew Rutledge is the Vice President of PITCO LLC. He has 16 plus years OCTG inspection experience, and he was in magnetic flux leakage experience and technology. He was recognized for implementation ISO 9001 system at the PITCO facility, advancing inspection and reliability and leading technical teams to deliver innovative customer-focused solutions worldwide. Welcome, Matthew Rutledge. And his co-author is Edson José Eufrásio. He is a mechanical engineer with an MBH with over 40 years of experience in NDT, inspection quality, and large CapEx projects across steel, lamination, and oil and gas industries. He, NDT Level III, former Director of NDT Technology at Vallourec, past President of ABENDI, and current leader of ASNT Global NDT Consulting, specializing in sales, product and development audits, and technical assistance. Well, you have the floor. All the best.
All right, thank you very much. I really appreciate that introduction. Let me share my screen here and get the PowerPoint going. Again, yes, thank you for the introduction, and we are absolutely thrilled to have the opportunity to address this conference, and we are and appreciate the past several speakers. There was really good information. We're going to dig in a little bit into magnetic flux leakage inspection, specifically of OCTG products, and the advancements that have been made through the years. Before we go there, though, I kind of want to touch on some things that we've seen in the industry and demands from the industry over the past 15-20 years. As mentioned in some of the previous presentations, there's been increased demand for the higher grade materials, the P110s and the Q125s. So how that translates into our world is that those grades require more critical inspection. So you're doing, I'm sure you're aware, but you're doing a 5% OD and ID inspection on that grade of pipe. Some other trends that we have noticed is even the size of the notches that are being called out by our customers. API calls out 2-inch long, 40 thousandths wide notches, and we're seeing much more interest in 1-inch long, 20 thousandths wide notches. We are seeing call outs for oblique angle flaw detection and reliable ID/OD discrimination. So we've also seen, and this has been interesting, from the processors and the mills, we're seeing the inspection criteria for the P110 being called out on the lower grades. So 5% ID/OD inspections on L80 and N80 and green pipe. So all of these requirements have really inspired and or pressured, I think both come into play, the necessity of manufacturers of MFL inspection equipment to make significant improvements over the years in order to remain relevant to the industry. So we'll talk a little bit today about a few of the examples of the advancements that have been made in flux leakage technology. Our first stop will be in the sensor technology. So the legacy equipment, and surprisingly, there's still a good bit of it out there, but it focused on wound coil sensors. These sensors they provide a reliable inspection, but they have some downsides as well. One of which is when the flux leakage comes off the pipe due to hitting an imperfection or called a perturbation, that perturbation needs to hit that sensor essentially at a 90-degree angle. It gets 10 degrees off one direction or the other, and the amplitude of the signal gets extremely small. And so likely you can't perform a quality inspection on that pipe or on those particular imperfections. There have been advancements in the wand coil technology, one of which was introducing circuit board mounted coils, which then gave way to smaller footprints of the coils and smaller coils, so that ultimately you can increase channel counts, and that assists in offsetting some of the downside of the coil technology. Another sensor technology that's come into play have been Hall element sensors. Hall element sensors have some unique advantages over the coil sensors. First off, they have a 360-degree sensing area. So that 90-degree intersection now becomes opened up a bit. There is also, from the Hall elements, we get a unique signature from the signal or from the Hall elements, and we can utilize that signal for the unique signature for better processing, and the software algorithms and all the interpretations of that signal utilize that signature. So there's been great advantages to that we have seen. Next piece we'll move along to is the legacy equipment utilized analog cards. Essentially, each card, you needed a card for each function that you needed to call out on the flux leakage inspection system. And these would have 23 plus cards in them. Then software came along, obviously, and the software algorithms replaced the cards. But more exciting than that is there are literally hundreds of software algorithms and limitless opportunity for functions and features and capabilities that you can now present in MFL inspection equipment. So it was really quite an exciting transition for the industry and for us as well. Another piece, another advantage was digitizing the signals. So in the legacy equipment, the signal is detected by the sensor. It's analog at that point. That analog signal has to pass through a slip ring, and passing through the slip ring, it picks up additional noise. And then it goes along the mill floor over to the computer system. The whole way it's picking up additional noise. So now that signal can end up getting buried in that noise that it's picking up as it transitions over to the computer. Whereas if you digitize the signal within inches of the source, inches of the sensor, that digitized signal can bypass the slip rings, be delivered wirelessly, and then sent along the cables over to the electronics for further processing. In that whole transition, we haven't picked up any noise at all. So we've got a much cleaner signal to deal with in the software and the algorithms, and ultimately to the display to the operator. So that was a big change for MFL inspection equipment. I want to dig a little deeper into the software algorithms and the data processing advancements that have come along the way. So in the legacy systems, in order to identify an indication, a flaw, an artificial reference indicator, it uses a constant threshold amplitude discrimination. So in short, what that means is during the calibration process, you're going to calibrate on the smallest flaw that you're looking for, the smallest ARI. Then you're going to set that threshold well below the amplitude of that signal. That poses two potential dilemmas, one of which is false indications. If the noise generated from the pipe now comes up over that threshold, it's going to alarm and you're going to have to prove it up. So the false indications are an issue there. In addition, there's, hold on, sorry, whoop, my apologies here. Oh, there we go. My apologies. I lost a slide on my end. I don't think you did. But additionally, that signal that was picked up ultimately can be lost in that background noise. Whereas when using software algorithms, we can deal much better with that signal to noise, and specifically in lower signal to noise ratios. And we're going to take a little closer look at that in the next slide. So this is an actual example that I thought would be useful to present the concept here. This was a joint of seamless pipe. The seamless pipe had ridges running longitudinally along the ID surface of the pipe. And what you can see in the display on the screen is the oscillations there, the multitude of them, correspond with those ridges and the flux leakage coming off the ID surface of that pipe. You'll also notice that circled in red there is that's a 5% ID notch, and that notch is well below what we're getting from the longitudinal ridges. So the signal to noise in the raw data before processing at this point was 0.56 to 1. Essentially, on a legacy system, this would be lost. You would not detect this. So the first thing that we do in the software algorithms, as we look at the time domain and frequency domain, and we then identify the coherent signal components created by the ridges, and we essentially remove those. So by doing that, we can now display the actual indication or flaw we're looking for in a much higher signal to noise ratio of 1.78 to 1. This, as I referenced earlier in the legacy equipment, this notch would have been buried in the noise, whereas applying this software algorithm and this process, we're able to clearly kick up above it and properly send it for further inspection by prove up. But you don't have to stop there. So additionally, we can look at the individual channels. This particular shoe that was utilized, or sensor, I should say, had 32 channels. 7 of those channels passed across that 5% ID notch. We could then analyze the data specifically from those 7 channels and verify that they correspond with the time domain and frequency domains of the calibration. And at that point, we can then further increase the signal noise ratio from 4.05 to 1. So essentially from the 0.56 to 1 in the raw data, we have increased the signal noise 7 to 1, which puts the equipment in a position that it's able to properly inspect pipe with this kind of noise generated. It allows for a reliable inspection. It greatly reduces false indications, even in pipe that we've seen here with the noise envelope exceeding the ID amplitude threshold. So these are some of the exciting changes, certainly not all of them, but a few that I wanted to be able to highlight here. So overall outputs of the improvements in MFL inspection over the years, repeating on smaller flaws in heavier wall pipe. It used to be the 9 5/8 53 50-pound P110 couldn't run through a flux leakage unit. Now, with these algorithms and changes applied, that's not a problem for the equipment. we're able to provide circumferential data and displays. Basically, so when it gets to prove up or the operator, we're not only telling them the linear location of the indication, but we're also giving them 0 to 360 location, so we can tell them it's at 186 degrees, really improving the efficiency of the prove up and analysis of that indication. So lots of exciting things that have come out of flux leakage and continuing R&D to bring in more and utilize those algorithms further. But at this point, I'm going to pass it along to my colleague, Edson, for the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Matt. So guys, I'm very proud to take part of this conference, and it's special that we have one dedicated time to speak about magnetic flux leakage. I'm very enthusiastic with MFL because in 1985, I installed the first bench of the MFL. And for a long, long time, we didn't see improvements in new technology for MFL. But in the last years, the situation changed drastically, and we can see many movement in the way to increase the MFL performance. Take some notes from our colleague from SMS. With some challenge in terms of quality improvements, operate skills, and with the movement that people are retired and is necessary some training and to transfer these skills. In the same way, to transfer the skills necessary to transfer the know-how and improve technology. In this way, we already talked today about many challenges, and for OCTG pipe applications, day by day we have more demands for a diverse environment. To cover these challenges, it's necessary to take into account how important to select the correct method for pipe inspections. We produce good pipes, has a big technology on boards. These high demand for steel grades, but it's necessary to take into account of the operates efficiency, cost efficiency. Cost efficient means that it's necessary to do inspections, but do inspection the right way. Reduce costs for false indication that the equipment not well setting or not with the state-of-the-art technology should provocate false indications. Scrap good pipes, approve bad pipes, increase claims and customer insatisfactions. And there is one important, it's how can we fulfill the specifications, do right inspections and selections. Matt, next please. So in this way, I'm consider that the pipe inspections, OCTG pipe inspections or other products are based in the 3 pillars to select the right inspections and to check if your choice is correct. What's necessary to do in terms of inspections. But the second pillar is the POD, the probability of detections of imperfections. API is very clear when it's arrived at, in spite of the specification criteria, the pipe producers is responsible to mitigate all imperfection that they produce, independent of the criteria of the specification. It passed for this POD curve that the target is to have near to the 100% of detectability for the method that you choose for a piping specification. So it means that the target is 100% of detectability or nearby, And our aim is to detect the smaller imperfection that's necessary to do. The third pillar we call defect catalog, but it's possible to do any other name. But what does it mean? In this graph, we have the target of the cost-efficient operator that we must detect all imperfections, hide the specifications, and to be triggered. This is our target. But in many cases, we are working in the other positions, in the other place. Do oversensitivity to compensate some problems with the equipment, technology, or operator skills, that we lose money, and in the other conditions to transfer the risks to the customers. This is the bad word. So it means that always we need to run these feedback runs with our pipe producer to be sure that we are at the target or near to the target, how we need to correct our way to be there. A simple things to use these tools as a defect catalog. If you take part of the pipe order and check which kind of imperfections you are able to detect, which kind of imperfections your equipment is not do a correct run. If we are focused on these three pillars all the time in our production or in the pipe stock yard or when you do inspection before apply the pipes, we should realign the criteria to focus on these directions. Next, Mac, please. So I put two questions to provocate over you. How confident we are with the NDT method used to inspect all the products? With method, magnetic flux leakage, UT, and how to detect irregular imperfections with a very complicated morphology for pipe surface. I put some bad pictures. When I talk about defects, it's always bad pictures, but it's a practical example with one imperfections for open the surface, and this is a real cartography of MFL against the UT. We have a good signal triggered by MFL, but with a bad signal for UT. Why? Because when the imperfection is irregular, especially in the edge or in the bottom, the sound being spread give a very bad answer to the probe. Oh, I don't talk that one method is better than the others, but most of the time it's necessary to combine two methodology, or it depends on the application, you need to select the best one. Next map, please. So, just to sum up, information about magnetic flux leakage and ultrasonic to put everybody on the same page. Both method or other method has limitations and advantage. Ultrasonic is very good for volumetric imperfections, for imperfection in the inside of the wall, and for cracks and for imperfections with a very wide defined morphology. But MFL is good for some orientations that is very weak for UT. So thanks for our colleagues like us, we have many improvements for MFL. I attend many conferences worldwide with a lot of papers regarding the UT innovations like phase array, like probe improvements, algorithm, and so on. But we were in the silence for a long, long time without any improvement for MFL. Nowadays, for the last 5 or 10 years, the situation changed for magnetic flux leakage, and we can see good improvement. And this improvement is really aligned with this graph in terms of the oil and gas global market increase. And thanks to the speech before, this is a right way. So it means that We have a big demand of pipe producer. We have a big demand for pipe inspections. We do have big demand for pipe suppliers. I need to save money. We need to select the right inspection method. We need to survey if it works according to the spec, according to the POD, and according to trigger the right imperfection size, the right threshold that we can do it. And which is strange an opportunity we are facing now. So customers already recognize how important to define the right method for inspections. UT, for all specifications, requests a UT for pipe release, in especially for high grade. But I can feel that some customers already consider that MFL is always important, not just for process control, but for pipe release. Not complete alone, sometimes combined with the G or in 2 times runs, but is necessary to consider. NDT, non-destructive testing, for my positions, is a very powerful tool to fulfill specifications, customer satisfactions, but a good feedback for quality improvement. It's necessary to have the equipment independent if a request or not. Directly communicate with the production flow to react in the short terms, to save pipes during the production line. And I'd like to use this forum, as I told you in the beginning, that I'm very excited with MFL. It's necessary to bring this flag in our hands and to push for MFL to be integrated in the specification demand. That's really necessary to do, because we know, as we are pipe producers or equipment suppliers, how hard it is to detect natural imperfections with a very complicated morphology. So UT is very good, edge current is very good, but MFL is good. PITCO and MAC show us now how many improvements we can do, reducing the background noise, reduce false indications. We have very good cartography, mapping the pipe surface through the pipe lengths that help for production improvement, help for the operator in the proof outline to do a right reparations or to scrap the pipe the right way. Next map, please. So in this way, I like to show one solution from MAC and PITCO that combine 2 techniques together in the same test bench with MFL and with the UT, with the two-phase array that cover in many directions, clockwise, counterclockwise, lamination, wall thickness detections, and obliquity in the same way for MFL. But this is just one example. It's possible to consider this robust solution that is available on the market today, or if necessary, we should split this in 2 separate lines for MFL and for UT. But it's necessary to have in our mind how important to have the right equipment, the right method runs. And if we have solutions like what we show this for me is the best one, but it's possible to discuss. And the position of us from MAC and from PITCO is to have an easy talk with the pipe producing demands and with the technology that we should offer, to put in the very easy words, needs and solution. Next map, please. So just for to sum up my speech, so we talk about 2 big companies, MAC and PITCO, that offer good solutions integrate with two different technology. But the most important thing is that what we can offer to you is our experience from MAC with more than 29 years working in the global way for NDT solutions for eddy current, for flux leakage, for UT. We have our headquarters in New York and another facility in Ohio and in Sweden. But we have technicals, engineers with good skills worldwide. From PITCO and Arctic, we talk about one company that started in 1994 with many equipment running, and especially in the USA, for pipe producers, for pipe yard. And just small experience I'd like to exchange to you. I travel in many places, especially in the pipe yards. Sometimes for visits, sometimes for answer claims. That's a bad trip. But when you look at what happened in the pipe yards are pipe that are already supplied, that are already inspected, and the pipe is scrapped in the pipe yard. Why? Because if the pipe was approved, if the pipe was well handled, which kind of imperfection we should find in the pipe yard as a second inspections? But we then find many problems. Why? Because some problems with the right decisions of the method to do a pipe inspections. Because in the normal way, pipes in the stockyards, I would just need to focus to detect some scratch, some imperfections, provoked by bad handling. But unfortunately not. And when you do this, when you do many pipe rework and you scrap pipe on the pipe yard, you just lose money. So guys, please take this flag with me, and I need to push in this way to have stronger decisions and specification for which method is necessary to do, and the pipe producers must take care and to analyze day by day where they are in that flow catalog shop. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matthew and Edson, for your interesting presentation. I think, Edson, you're coming from Belo Horizonte, is that correct?
Yes, from Brazil, from Belo Horizonte, yes.
You pensa. Okay.
Yeah.
Please stay online. We will start in several minutes with our panel discussion, and please stay there. And well, Cornelia will help with the technical start, and we will then come and get it done.
Okay.
So, wollen wir uns
Yes. On the way, we could try and pick up some NBC. And then after 4 hours, when we've killed one player and then we ultimately die looking for NBC, we can forget that and just play for the game.
Gotcha.
If I'm an Alcatraz and you die, or vice versa, it's a real ball ache because you're so far apart. It's all right
Yeah,
if you're
but
on
you
the
know me, right? I can make pretty much every distance in like 4.5 minutes.
4.5 minutes. Holy shit, I can't last that long for anything. Any life that I ever do on Deer Isle starts with maybe a thought that I might try to do the quest. Wow. That is scrumdiddlyumptious, even though you can't eat it. Wow.
Okay.
I've not found it great, but I'll keep looking.
I mean, you found a Mosin.
Well, yeah, I did find it, but you're right. Found a Mosin. I did also find, with my own eyes, definitely not with the streams, a baby AK, which is dog shit, but I know that you quite like it, so I kept it.
Absolutely not. I hate the AKS now.
Do you? You finally woke up and smelled the roses.
Bro, after they increased the weapon spray, it is absolutely insane horrible. You're fighting somebody, I guess.
I've got a couple of some help.
Paul and Dante, today's banter will be epic keeper TRNZ worthy.
Yeah, you can take this as well and stick it on your back as soon as.
So,
Man sieht es auf deinem. So, wir sind aber immer noch. Wir sollten noch ein bisschen.
ja, ein bisschen, noch ein bisschen näher. Ja.
So einfache Lösungen.
Workforce realities.
Das ist analog, was ich vorschlage.
Okay.
So. Jetzt wollen wir mal immer hört man uns, wenn man hier redet, oder
Moment.
müssen wir das Mikrofon nicht? Auf Sicherheitshalber, das müssen wir.
Was ist das denn?
So, das ist in den USA auch.
So, wir versuchen es mal.
Das war's. So, wo sind die anderen?
Die können Sie jetzt hier nicht sehen, aber die kann man sehen, wenn die sprechen.
Ja, gut, das ist sicher.
Fangen Sie mal an, warte.
Wo sind denn die anderen?
Die können Sie nicht sehen, aber die kann man im Ding sehen.
Okay. Well, dear colleagues from the tube and pipe industry, I would like to introduce our panel. We have Dr. Heinz-Jürgen Büchner. He's our banker and our, I would say, market analyst. We have Zarados Milios. He is the CEO of Wellspun in the United States, one of the best and largest pipeline producers. We have Christian Haferkamp from SNS. He is responsible for the seamless pipe equipment. And we have Edson Eufrásio and Matthew Rutledge from MAC, respectively also from PITCO. And I welcome you all for our panel discussion. And I would go immediately into the questions, the first questions. And Saros, maybe I can ask you about the key trends which are shaping the tubular market. We have heard in our presentations quite some of these key trends, but please, can you give us, from your perspective in the United States, what are the key trends shaping the tubular market? Somehow we can't hear you. Maybe Edson, we can start with you. I know you have a big and large background in pipe making as well. Maybe you can tell us from your perspective what are the key trends in shaping the tubular market.
So, during my professional life, we always work with, I always work with the seamless pipes for different applications. And the most important things is to be in touch with the customers in terms of customers' demands. It's necessary to translate these demands into practical way during the pipe productions. It's necessary to discuss the contract review in terms of the specification, but in terms of the customer specification as well. And it is necessary to take these informations and to transfer this information for working flow. The movement that we are facing now, that the OCTG market is increasing, is depends on the each regions, but in the general way, it's increasing. When you talk, for example, in the South America, that we are working for offshore in the deeper water, the demand for high steel grade, it's really big. And when I talk about the offshore, we have the sour situations and the big risks if some pipe fail. When I talk about the onshore, the situation is not different because we talk about fracking, we talk about the impact in the environment. So to supply good pipes, we need to supply in the safe way. When I talk about the three pillars, it's necessary to not forget about the most important pillar in terms of the safe conditions, in terms of customer satisfaction. Is necessary, what I really strongly recommend, when we receive some pipe quotations, it's necessary to translate what the customer expectations more than what the specification is writing for. It's necessary to turn a feedback always, do good trainings, try to keep the good skills guys, and take out the equipment in state of the art. Do this running all the times in terms if you are in good conditions or you need some reactions. The market give us a good gift that is growing, and we must take this pride.
Thank you very much. I think
Thank you.
well, you have raised one very important point in my position, that is we are having the situation that we have more sulfur, SO2, and more carbon, which is very aggressive to the pipes. So we have to have very good lifetimes and very good constrained, very good behaviors of the pipes. Saros, please, can you give us your ideas and your opinion on the key trends for the tubular market?
On the line pipe, you mean?
Yes, please.
Sure. The key trends in the US, let me stay on to the US, which is really the area I see. On the technical side, we do see a new interest on X80. And X80 steel grades has been around for a while. It comes and goes. Not easy to get availability of X80 steel in the US, but there are some pipeline construction companies that do want to design it in. So from my perspective as pipe producers, we just have to be aware of it and work with our raw material sources to have this capability, which is, as I said, in the US is not really readily available in the raw material world. That's one trend I see here. On the technical side, of course, here on the coating side, all the pipes now require full lining. I think that's a relatively new trend in the US. In the past, it was sometimes it was not. I don't see any 3LP needs yet in the US. It's still mostly FB. And also there is demand for, I think, 24 inches CRW. I think there's more demand there we see, and that's also part of the reasoning of our investments. They also needs, although it's a relatively small market versus the total large OD market, is still there is good demand coming for the 0.8 to 1.5 inches thick pipes. So that's another trend that's happening in the US. There's more heavy gauges on the LSO. So that's what I see on the market demand, steel grades and technical aspect for our needs. And of course, customer specification are tightening. Of course, we do UT 100%, hydro 100%. These are all now more or less given in the line pipe. But customers are very open to any type of advanced inspections and from dimension measurements and other.
Thank you very much, Saros.
Sure.
We have talked in one of the other presentations today have already mentioned the situation regarding tariffs. We all know that there are tariffs in the US. We know that Europe is also protecting itself with increasing trends towards tariffs. So many regions are trying to protect their own industry by incorporating tariffs. What does this mean in regards to the competition between the different companies? There is well, that means that more or less the importers are getting closed out of the market. And what does it mean for the competition within the country itself? Maybe Saros, you can give us a
Yeah, sure. From my perspective, and I think actions speak better than words. I mean, we're expanding capacity, domestic capacity. So obviously, although tariffs is a short-term impact. I mean, tariffs are not around forever, I think, administration. But although in the US, there is a pro-tariff policy regime for both administrations, both Republican and Democrat, for maybe different reasons. But net outcome is the same. I think tariffs are here to stay for the US and are permanent for steel pipe. Also the US, and I come from Europe, it's much easier for domestic producers to petition or low-cost imports. And all administrations act quickly. So what does it mean for imports? I think if you look at line pipe, there was a number which I saw. It's like line pipe imports are down by 50%. If I saw some statistics, I wasn't confident. That's why I did not put in my presentation. So effectively, what it means that most of its domestic producers are fully booked, let's say now realistically for us for the next 2 years. And there's more demand out there. Of course, there will be a prices will rise domestically because, of course, raw material suppliers will also try to increase their profit margin on the API grades, both for coil and plates. So there will be an elevation of price levels for sure, which may allow some imports into the US, even with tariffs. And I think, to be honest, if I were to look at the demand that I see for the project that have a name and they're very specific with specific timelines, there will be a need for imports in the US. There's just no way that domestic producers can keep up. Even if we all build, I mean, I mentioned in my presentation that we're building an LSO mill. We're just starting now. Believe it or not, we have orders for 2 months worth of production, even before we even broke ground. This is how good the market is. I've never seen the circumstance like this in my career.
Yeah, I think you are really in a unique position, though. And I do believe seeing all the project, what you have shown to us, it will probably be very difficult to serve that all from local resources only. So there must be some imports and some.
I expect there will be imports. If I were to guess, definitely from Europe, from Greece, from Germany, Europipe, Corinth will do imports. I expect there will be imports from Korea, from Japan. I think there will be imports all around, at different price levels, but there will be. I think the demand exceeds domestic capacity, both raw materials and pipe.
Then maybe I can add on Sarah's comments a little bit from the more seamless side and smaller pipe dimensions that we see. It's obvious that the capacity in the US with the equipment limitation that I described is on that front also not capable of producing that amount of need, of demand. So import will stick, and especially from Asia and in Southeast Asia, the price level, even with tariffs on top, is still on a not too bad level and competitive in the market. So we will not see imports fade, but surely change in the volumes that we see from different regions.
And we have to take into account that, for example, some exporters from China have, let me say, special conditions with tax credits and other subsidies, so that they can export to the US even with a tariff of 50% or even more. So it's sometimes not a pure competition, which is coming from some Asian countries. And in the medium term, we have to take into account that the global overcapacities in the steel market in total will rise to around 750 million tons per year. And that will be reached in, let me say, 2027, 2028.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. Maybe where we have now heard more from the pipe producer side, Matthew, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the position of an equipment supplier. How do you see that situation from the equipment side?
You know, I think the main area we're seeing effect is obviously on the raw material costs in the manufacturing process. We've seen that go up. You know, some of my perspective I'd have to draw from the first round of the 232 tariffs. I mean, at the end of the day, we have all been through this before, and it sorted itself out. During that period of time, we saw an increase of manufacturing in the US, foreign mills building facilities here in the US, growth in processors to process the green pipe into another grade. So if the original goal of 232 was to get investment into the US, I do think it accomplished that. This round, I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out, but I would expect to see some of the same anyway.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I would touch another topic. We have already heard from in one or the other presentation today that the impact of hot rolled coil pipe and plate price is really has really impact on the profitability of the tube and pipe manufacturers. And secondly, we have certainly a situation that the availability of particularly the oil and gas alloys or the is partially very limited, and the number of people who are interested in supplying the pipe producers is also not very big. So how do you see that situation? Maybe Edson, you can answer that from your pipe background. How well seamless it's not so critical because most of the seamless producers are producing their billets by themselves. It is more applicable to welded pipe producers. But maybe Saros, how do you see that the situation in the US, the availability of, I would say, reasonable coil and plate, and secondly, the availability of the right grades, steel grades to be used for the OCTG applications?
Sure. In terms of a reasonable price, did you ask about reasonable price levels? I don't know what's defined as reasonable price level. It will be a market price. It will be a price level set by the producers. It is a very tight, it is a seller's market. I mean, the pricing power is with the steel mills. And so the pricing power of the X70 coils is like with US Steel, with ArcelorMittal, SDI, US Nucor. Plates is even more limited. I mean, it's all basically the Nucor Brandenburg mill, which is still brand new, not fully qualified on everything, but they have capacity, and Cliffs, and that's it. So there is a limit. That's why when I presented, I tried to put the risks is really there's limited supply of steel in the US. So I think we will see plates and coils arriving from Korea, from Europe, 100%. I see that happening with tariffs. There will be tariffs also from Brazil. I mean, because of course they are ArcelorMittal, some of the slabs they bring from Brazil. So there will be semi-finished or finished arriving in the US with tariffs. And effectively the price will go higher. There's no question about it. In terms of capabilities, for sure, the best, they're not in the US. I mean, technical capabilities as I say, I was managing coiled pipeworks. I don't know the capabilities of Dillinger plate, of ArcelorMittal in Foz, in Marseille, or POSCO. It's higher. So for special applications, still would be imported in the US. There's no question about it. We don't have this capability domestically on the raw material. Pipe mills, I think our mills are as good as any. I think both on the seamless and line pipe. But I think raw materials, we will need to import raw materials for sure. That's my view.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very clear situation. And I remember the times some years ago when the coil prices were so high that even some of the welded pipe producers were stopping the operation because they couldn't really get the margins out of the difference between pipe market price and the coil price. That seems to be different nowadays. Well, we certainly have a seller's situation. That means the suppliers of strip and plate are having an extremely strong position. But on the other end, the market is so demanding that probably you can also justify the adequate prices on the market for your pipes.
Yes, I think, yes, effectively, you're right. Prices now, it's more of an availability issue. Pricing is there's always pricing pressure. I don't want to overdo it, but right now the pressure is on availability. So who is available to roll pipe in 27 in a Q1, Q2, Q3? That's, to be honest, that seems to be more important than the price level, the absolute price levels.
I think it's a unique situation, and in my life in pipe and steel, I do not really remember that we ever had a situation like that.
No, I think it's one of your speakers was talking about President Trump, but I mean that's really the Trump effect. But even the financial times that say that this is the Trump effect on the U.S. pipeline market. And that's why this never happened before. So it's very unique.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, coming to our next topic, we have, I think particularly Hans-Jürgen has told us a little bit about the other markets, construction, automotive, and these markets are also quite important for tube and pipe producers because not all tube and pipe producers are in OCTG. How do you see? Well, you have shown us that construction is improving. Well, particularly in the United States, we have a lot of pipes in construction, different to Europe, where it is not so. I would say penetration of pipes is not so large. In Asia, on the other hand, it's also quite good, the penetration. How do you see the construction business well, we know in the US it's good, in Asia it's good, but in Europe it's relatively slow. How do you see that?
Yeah, I expect that we, even in Europe, will see during the next 2-3 years a significant improvement in the construction industry, even in Germany, because we need a lot of residential investment very immediately because the rents are exploding, especially in bigger towns, and there are a lot of people who need very urgent new housing capacities. So we will see in Europe, even in Europe, a significant improvement in the construction sector. The biggest improvements will be seen in the next decades in the Asian market, not in China, because China had a residential construction boom during the last decade. But we will see in some other developing countries, even in India, there are high necessities for housing. And the biggest housing market in relation to the growth rates will be Africa in the next decade. But they're starting from a very, very low level. And in my opinion, they will start also with a very low level of residential construction. So will not provide us with the high-level construction like we usually normally in Western Europe, Germany, or some other countries. But Africa will be very important, mainly in the northern part. Naturally, in Nigeria, Angola, as big oil producers who generate high revenues from the oil production, and South Africa had potential to grow up even in the construction sector. If we have a broader look on the construction industry, we have to take into account that also the demand from the power generation sector will increase very immediately. And independent if power generation is built up in Asia, in the Americas, or in Europe, they all need a lot of tubes and pipes during the next years.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds pretty promising, despite the fact that I'm a little bit concerned that, for example, in Europe, the lobbying of the tube and pipe industry for the construction business is not on the same level as, for example, in the US. In the US, there is a tremendous lobbying activity for tubes and pipes. Here in Europe, my impression is that we have a situation that all the big companies like ASNT and others, they are still having the largest proportion on T and I beams rather than on pipes, and the sales people are not so engaged in promoting the tubular side.
But maybe this is, and I want to add on this, the difference when we were talking about, especially in USA, where mostly at the end, one producer was driving that topic tremendously, but he was not part of such an integrated plant. So cannibalizing his own products for the sake of pipe was not the need, but competing against that. And we don't see that in Europe a lot, because at the end, the driving forces are the big integrated steel plants like ASNT, like Vallourec, not anymore, but companies that really are big, and they're cannibalizing their own products versus a smaller one is of course a challenging situation of they are in that.
Yeah, I think we have to acknowledge that lobbying is the important factor, not only for construction, I think also in automotive, because still we have to acknowledge that tubular applications are for the smaller production volumes applied, not for the very big ones. And I think we as the tubular I would say group or tubular industry, we have to also really promote the benefits of the tubular products, not only in construction, but also in automotive, because there is big potential that can be taken, but it requires quite some. Okay, coming to technology, Matthew, and you have told us about your technologies, and I think also Christian. Matthew, what do you think? What are the technologies which are now really on the machinery side, on the technological equipment side? What is really driving the industry and gives the opportunities to become sustainable?
Yeah, no, I think obviously the drivers are what our customer demands, and then ultimately what are the desires of the inspection equipment manufacturers. It's exciting to me with seeing what Mac and us have been working on and the advancements that we've been making, but it can't stop there. If we stop today with the products that are currently offered in MFL like we did years ago, then here 5 years from now, it's not relevant anymore. So I think continued investment in R&D, a lot of it is clearly software driven right now. We've got whole teams that's what they do all day long, are the softwares. And then as I touched on, the sensor technologies, and then there's mechanical advancements. So I think there's more to come. I think it's an exciting future for flux leakage, certainly, and to, at the end of the day, benefit the industry, because as I think Edson kind of talked about a little bit, is are we creating products that meet that target area and that are safe to go down hole? That's really what it's all about, is the integrity of the pipe when it finally gets under pressure. So no, I think it's an exciting future right now for inspection technologies.
How do you see the, I would say, success path of artificial intelligence in finishing and testing?
Yeah, no, I think artificial intelligence will absolutely, and already is in play. I think there's opportunities to be seen from the inspection equipment side, and certainly at the mill side as well. AI is fantastic at grabbing and analyzing data and coming up with possible solutions to problems. So I think integration in the machinery itself and into production, I think it's gonna be. I think that's a real positive direction. I think that's the way it has to go.
Let me add to both questions at the end, one or two comments. At the end, of course, testing, measuring, everything that leads to data, describing the pipe, giving the genealogy of the pipe, and I presented digital solutions. All this is linked to the requirements that we heard that are tightening up. So helping the customers on that level. Technology, let me call that technology, is on the forefront. But at the end, I guess for all customers, especially for all producers, there are a few major drivers. At the end, it goes to cost of product, which means improvement on yield, or like Edson also was talking about, reduction of rejection rates, and improving on good and prime products. So I have to support the customer in improving his cost base to allow any production possible and be sustainable in the market. And this is on all fronts of the plant important. Artificial intelligence and measuring and also testing are surely big players, especially when it comes to the product quality and characteristics. But looking on the production side, tighter tolerances in large line pipe production, on expanding, better yield, even if it's in the point percentages of a seamless production. This is big bucks in the pocket of producers, which they all need to do investments that they are eagerly needing.
Thank you very much. I think, well, we all have to acknowledge that cost, our business is cost driven. We have to see that we can somehow get the best out of the production and to optimize it and to get the best cost and the best, I would say, value to the customer as well. It's not only cost, because you also have to have, it goes to smaller lots, it comes to shorter deliveries, and as I would say, Edson has also mentioned, a lot of defects are occurring on the yard, you know, by scratching in transportation. So also the transportation is an issue what has to be taken care of, and which is quite sensitive to the quality of the finished product.
we cannot forget one really major issue, especially in North America, is energy availability. Saros mentioned that. Bishna mentioned that data centers are eating up capacity of power. So every watt less in power usage is helpful. So energy efficiency and energy management becomes a driver of every producing plant.
I think we will see during the next 2 decades a different development. We will see an increasing demand from big data centers for energy and power generation. And on the other hand, we will see a higher energy efficiency in the manufacturing industry. For example, in the steel production, for example, in the mechanical engineering sector, or for example, in the automotive industry. And this is the reason why in the OECD countries, in the member states, the total demand for energy looks relatively stable. But this is a result from a huge change in the industry for energy demand, with lower demand per ton steel or per automotive per light vehicle. On the other hand, an exploding demand coming from the big data centers.
Thank you very much. Well, finally, I would give a little question to everybody. Well, we have seen that more or less everybody is saying that the perspective of the tubular industries is principally positive despite regional differences. But I would ask maybe the round, maybe we start with Saros. How do you see the future and the outlook for tubes and pipes on the line pipe side? We have heard it's bright, but how do you see it? Maybe also not only in the States, but also, you know, we have regions like Middle East, we have regions like China, we have regions like Europe, where we have the need for new, I would say, pipeline infrastructure, and we have also certainly the need for replacing some of these, and maybe also for more durable materials with cladding or whatever is the discussion there to have more sustainable pipelines.
I think the prospects, to be honest, they feel better than we have felt for the few years now. If you really think back in the last 10 years, there was a time that things were not looking too good, and many companies, as you know, exited the space. Right now it's looking good. I mean, you do have the AI boom is driving energy consumption. AI, the data centers need 24/7 power generation capacity, therefore that drives gas demand. So I for sure see a growth in all scenarios, regardless of the administration. I see medium-term or even long-term growth. Even if in the US there is the EIA, which is like the government authority looking for long-term energy demands for the next 30 years, the gas consumption is definitely increasing, which will drive line pipe. That's why I'm talking about gas, because that really, as you know, drives line pipe, and of course seamless too, because basically the gas has to come from the ground. Well, OCTG and line pipe, it will be driven by that. So I feel prospects are better than they have been recently. That's my feeling. I think Middle East also is on the same path as the US. I mean, I think I did mention in my presentation, we're also building a brand new LSO mill in Saudi Arabia. That's his Wellspan. So we strategically see that as another growth area for us. So both of those. Europe is in a more difficult position because of course, the complexity of the different administrations and different priorities. And of course, the rising energy cost and open conflicts in the region. So I think Europe is in a trickier position than maybe US and Middle East. And Asia is really more of an export market. So I think the growth of the domestic industry, of the pipe industry there, I'm talking about the energy, because of course automotive is big and construction is big, that will continue to grow. So in summary, I think overall, things are more positive. So I'm sharing Christian's comments on workforce needs, skilled talent attraction back to this industry, which I feel this industry has been decimated on losing a lot of good talent in all disciplines, electrical engineers, electronic. We talk about AI. Who is going to maintain, who is going to program, who is going to use those tools? So to me, that is a big challenge for our industry. We, as pipe producers, have to work to sell the prospects of our industry, explain that it's an AI application. I'm just using some of what I've heard about AI, the increased use of AI. We have to make our industry as attractive as it can be for young talent to want to join and have a career. Because if you look at the last 30 years, it's been very cyclical. So to me, that would be, and I see that in our talking Wellspan USA, which is like a small pilot of this growth. How are we building facilities? How do we find enough people to staff the facilities, which are well-trained? And in our case, we're a global company, so we can move talent around. But this is, for me, a key priority for us. So we, as a Tube Association, have to do more to attract young people into our industry. That's my view. I think overall the prospects are, for now, good. And also, of course, I'm not even going to the new energy like CCUS, which will come back, and maybe hydrogen. So these are all related to seamless applications, OCTG, and some from a line pipe, for sure.
I think that's a valid point. We have to make our industry more attractive to young talents. I think this is really one of the crucial points that at the moment our industry is not in the shape that the people think that is a positive and a good, nice working environment there. Okay, Christian, maybe you tell us a little bit what is your idea about the market outlook for tubes and pipes from the view of an equipment supplier.
I have surely different heartbeats at this point. For sure, we have heard that through basically all presentations. The outlook is promising. The need is imminent. We can see that. We know that line pipe, so as Westman is investing heavily in the US, in Saudi. We see others investing throughout different areas and different regions on a big level. And we know, looking at the landscape and the political situations, that especially now for me, seamless, that different regions require another investment in a new facility. Of course, on the same note, the political situation challenges that. As a German equipment supplier, tariffs in the US heavily have impact on such a greenfield project. So it is also on us to find new ways of sourcing, manufacturing, supply, which is also not a simple task on that side. So there is a connection, a relationship between all those dots that, as promising as it is, and as bright the future may be, the challenges come on the way, and then some are obvious today, but some are not, and there is also not yet the solution ready because you don't know the problem. So we'll have to have some hurdles to take on the way to get to, especially from an equipment supplier point, to get to a point that investments that so urgently are needed are also easily manageable in the specific regions without having too much impact by political situations. If it's tariffs, if it's change of administrations, we heard about approval processes on pipelines. Similar is it for of course plant projects. So different challenges that surely on one side help to make a big opportunity as the equipment supplier. Or on the other side, this will bring new challenges that it is, of course, we have to tackle.
Yeah, but I have to say, and I think Edson, you know that better than me. Brazil, for example, has a situation with tariffs since 40 years. And what was the consequence? The equipment supplier were producing most of the equipment in Brazil. And on the other hand, there was certainly a protective situation for Mannesmann, respectively later on for Vallourec, that they have a protective market. So it works out and it is handleable from both sides. Edson, what is your perspective in general on the market outlook?
Okay, so this tariff, it's a really big impact, but I have a feeling that this is not for long term, because it's not sustainable for arguments in terms of market, but is related to the politics and other relationship. For me, it's for period, but will be adapt. In terms of outlook market for pipe and tube, so the demand exists during the day. Everybody present the demands for mid and long term. What's necessary is to keep with innovations, with improvements, but necessary to have an open mind to adapt and to react in the very short time. In terms of datas for improvements, artificial intelligence on board. So guys, for my side, for inspections, when we do a pipe inspections, it depends of the each sector. For OCTG, for automotive, or for structural, we produce for each pipe a huge amount of data. How to transform this data in informations for process improvements, for less cost, for good records. So it's not just a case that a pipe is approved or not. There are many information below to the threshold trigger that's really important for improvements. How should we react with the early informations that we produce right at the first time? If we can take this target, we will survive independent of any crisis or any tariff. We'll be more competitive with this information and transform this for our side. So the demanding for on market exists, and demand for product with a high performance each time will be more strong, and we must be prepared for this challenge.
Thank you very much. Well, I do thank you all for this event and very interesting discussion. I hope also our friends and colleagues from the industry, they also appreciated our discussion, what we had here. And I do thank Heinz-Jürgen Büchner, Zaros Munoz, I do thank Christian Haverkamp, Edson Eufrásio, and Rutledge for their contribution. Thank you very much. And looking forward to see you all and to meet you again. And thanks for all your contribution. And again, thanks for all the sponsors for our event today who helped us to be able to organize this event. Thank you very much to all of you. Have a great day and a great year, rest of the year. And I hope we will have a great future for our tubular industry. And we will keep it sustainable and we will keep it running because we have good people and we have to encourage other people to join us in this industry. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.